Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is chapter 87 of Rapid Fate Online, and this one's titled A Rough Start. Tamajiki thought for a moment. Actually, that's true. They don't mention that, do they? Just then a man entered the room and greeted the group, so all of their attention fell on him. Welcome, you lot, he said with a grin. Now, let's get you all assigned to strong players so that we can level you up quickly, yeah? All right then. He jerked his head in the direction of the door that he had just entered through and turned to go back there. Slowly the players started to follow and found that they were channeled into a hall with other players. Tamajiki looked around for you the second that he realised that you had all been put together again, but he didn't have to look very far because you had found him first and snuck up behind him. Tama, you whispered from behind. I'm going to try and stay with you. He glanced back, then nodded, and you spoke to the guy beside him. Hey, you hissed. He looked at you. Are you friends with this dude? Yeah, he replied with a nod. Let's trade, you whispered. You head back there to him and I'll stay here with Tamajiki. He nodded and looked back to where you were pointing, nodding again when he saw his friend. Quickly you switched places and kept your head down as you all walked down the hall. Some of you were made to walk through one door and others through other doors, and you held on to Tamajiki's hand so as not to lose him in the crowd. When everything had settled down, you found yourself in a small room with him and one other player with a viewing window on one side. What is this? You whispered. Is this some kind of place where people come to look at us? Just then, some men walked past outside and stopped, reading an information panel that had been placed in the top right corner of the window. Oh my God, we're slaves. We are literally slaves, you said with disbelief and horror. They're reading information about us. One of the men reading the information then looked in the window and looked at each of you in there. Girl in the middle, he said, to which the back door of the small room was opened and another man stepped in. Congratulations, you've been picked, he said, pointing at you. No, you said sternly. If you take her, you take me too, Tamajiki said darkly. The guy looked at him and smirked. Or what? He taunted, pulling out a sword. Tamajiki didn't flinch, but you knew that he couldn't defend himself or act like he knew how to move, because it would give him away and ruin the whole mission. I'll take 'em both, the guy suddenly called. The more manpower, the better. The guy with the sword huffed, almost annoyed that he hadn't gotten the chance to smack Tamajiki down, and conceded, putting his sword away. Fine, he said. Both of you come out with me. Tamajiki started forwards and took your hand, taking you with him as he followed the guy out the back, then around to the front of this shop-type place, and directed towards the man who had just asked for you both. Behind your backs an exchange was made, and then your new owner directed you to follow him. You did, but you were confused. This didn't look like level 11. What level was this? Hey, what level are we on? You asked the new guy who had just bought you. Level 13, the guy replied. What? How did we get to level 13? You asked. The guy looked back at you. How the hell would I know? Tamajiki kept quiet, just holding your hand and keeping an eye out for any suspicious activity or anything else that would be able to give him a clue as to how to bring this operation undone. Is this your first time slave contracting? Tamajiki asked the guy who led you both to a house at the furthest end of town. No, he said. What happened to your previous contractees? Tamajiki asked suspiciously. Well, they're not here, obviously, the guy replied, and they didn't meet a good end, so I suggest you don't act out, or you'll find yourself in the same predicament. Tamajiki's eyes narrowed slightly, but neither you nor the guy noticed as you walked into the house. You, the guy said, pointing at Tamajiki. Come here. Tamajiki stepped forward. The guy then opened his inventory and clicked open the slave contracting link, which opened a consensual link with Tamajiki, who looked at it. Put your thumbprint, the guy said gruffly. Before I do that, you'll treat both of us with respect, and you will not bring either of us to any harm, nor will you touch either of us inappropriately, or make us do anything illegal. Do you understand? Tamajiki asked in a low voice. Ha! Look at you trying to be tough. You're nothing but level 1 scum. You think you're so big? You should be thanking me and begging me to contract you, you lowlife, the guy sneered. Tamajiki remained still. Agree to my conditions, or I won't allow. Huh, I've heard of your type before, the guy said, turning and walking to his kitchen bench and picking up a knife, then walking back. Tamajiki still didn't flinch, and you stepped in behind him. I own you. You'll do anything and everything I say. You want to level up, don't you? Well, if you're going to try and cheat your way up, then that's what you get. Understand? No. You agree, or we walk, Tamajiki said again. The guy scowled and lunged forwards with his knife, showing that he had indeed done this before, as he didn't even hesitate to strike directly at Tamajiki's chest. Your man swiftly took your hand and stepped back and to the side, easily avoiding the brash swipe of the guy's knife, then chopping his hand across the guy's back as he stumbled past. His hand chop wasn't very hard, as he was still only level 1, but just his swift movements and calm demeanour alone were enough to tell this new owner that he knew how to handle himself and he meant business. The guy stumbled past and turned, raising his knife again. You won't learn, will you? Tamajiki said, stepping forwards in front of you and leaving you back a bit as he grabbed the guy's wrist and then swiftly tripped him up, sending him face first into the floor. Ah, that was so satisfying to read. There ends chapter 87. Stay tuned for chapter 88 coming tomorrow.